My name is Grace. I am 87 years old, and today I am flying on a plane for the first time in my life. But I am not excited. I am afraid. I am not afraid of the plane. I am afraid of what I will find when I land. I have not seen my son in many, many years. And now I am going to visit him. But he does not know how much I cried before making this trip. He does not know that I had to ask for help to buy this ticket. He does not know how long I sat by the window, waiting for a phone call that never came. For years I wondered, did I do something wrong? Did he forget me? Maybe you are thinking, why did they stop talking? It's not simple. Life is never simple. Let me tell you my story. I was born in a small village. We had no car, no phone, no TV. Only dust, goats, and long days. My father was a hard man. He said women should not go to school. He said, a woman's place is in the kitchen. So I didn't go to school. I didn't learn to read or write, but I was smart. I watched people. I listened. I remembered everything. At age 16, I got married. My husband Daniel was a farmer. He worked hard, but he also drank hard. Some nights he came home angry. I said nothing. I just waited for morning. When our son Lucas was born, something changed inside me. I looked at his little hands, his eyes, and I made a promise. He will have a better life. I began to teach myself. I found an old book in a trash can. I took it home. I looked at the letters again and again. Every night after Lucas was asleep, I practiced. Slowly, I started to read signs on the street, then newspaper headlines. One day, I wrote my name, Grace. I cried that night. I was 34 years old. When Lucas turned 7, I sold vegetables in front of our house. I saved every coin. By the time he was 14, I had a small shop. People came to buy rice, beans, and bread. They also came to talk. They said, Grace, you are strong. But I wasn't always strong. Some nights I went to bed hungry so Lucas could eat. I fixed his clothes again and again so he could look nice at school. When he won a scholarship to study in the city, I smiled. But later, in my room, I cried. He packed his bag. He said, "Thank you, Mama," and then he left. At first, he called every week, then once a month, then silence. I still don't know why. Years passed. My shop closed. My hands got tired. My hair turned white. Some days I looked at the phone and hoped. Then one night I had a dream. Lucas was a boy again. He ran to me and said, "Mama, come see me." I woke up shaking. That morning I made a decision. I would go to him, even if I had to walk. A neighbor helped me buy the plane ticket. A young girl at the market helped me book the flight. And now here I am, on a plane, in the sky. The man next to me is kind. He gives me a small chocolate. I thank him, but my heart is heavy. What if he doesn't want to see me? What if he forgot where he came from? I look out the window. The clouds are soft and white, like dreams or memories. I remember his first steps, his little laugh, how he called me Mama when he had a bad dream. I remember the time he brought me a flower from the field and said, "It's for you, because you're my hero." Does he remember? The plane begins to land. I feel nervous. My hands shake a little. The airport is big and loud, so many people, so many signs. I walk slowly, holding my small bag. I look around. Where is he? I walk past the crowd. No one is waving. No one is calling my name. Then I see a man with a paper. It says, "Grace, welcome." I stop. "Are you Lucas's driver?" I ask. He nods. "Yes, madam, I will take you to him." I feel cold. My knees hurt. He didn't come. He sent someone. In the car, I don't speak. The city looks strange. Big buildings, tall lights. Nothing like our village. I think, maybe he is busy. Maybe he had to work. But my heart feels small. I think maybe he didn't want to come. We stop in front of a tall building. The driver says, "He is inside." I take a deep breath. I open the door. I walk slowly, one step at a time. My son is on the other side of that door. Will he open it with love or with silence? I stood in front of the door. My hand was shaking. My heart was loud. I looked down at my shoes. They were old. The same shoes I wore to church, to the market, to everything. I should have bought new ones, I thought. What if he feels ashamed of me? I raised my hand and knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. This time louder. I heard footsteps. Then the door opened. There he was, Lucas, my son. He looked taller, thinner. He had gray at the sides of his hair. His face looked tired. He looked at me. His eyes were big. He said nothing. Then he whispered, "Mama." I tried to smile. My lips were shaking. "Hello, Lucas," I said softly. For a moment, he didn't move. Then he stepped forward and hugged me. I was not ready. I almost fell, but he held me, and I held him back, so tight, like I never wanted to let go. We sat inside his apartment. It was quiet, too quiet. He gave me tea. I held the warm cup with both hands. "I'm sorry I didn't come to the airport," he said. "I had a meeting." I nodded, but inside, I felt pain. A meeting was more important than me? He looked at me. "You look different, older." I smiled a little. "Yes, that happens." He looked away. "I didn't think you'd really come." "I almost didn't," I said. He didn't ask why. He just sipped his coffee. I looked around. His home was clean, modern. There were no photos on the wall, no signs of family, no sign of me. "So," I said, trying to smile, "do you have children?" "No," he said. "A wife?" "No." "Are you happy?" He looked at me, this time longer. His eyes were red. "I don't know," he said. That night, I slept on his couch. He gave me a blanket. It was soft, too soft. I missed my bed. I missed the wind from the window, the sound of crickets outside. I didn't sleep much. I thought about when he was little, when he had fever and I stayed up all night with a wet cloth on his head, when he forgot his lunch and I ran to the school with the food in my hands, when he cried after falling off a bike and I told him, "You are strong, my son. You always get up." Did he remember those things, or had he erased me? In the morning we ate toast and fruit. He had to work again. "Stay here, Mama," he said. "You can rest." He kissed my cheek. That surprised me. And then he left. I sat in his home. It was cold, so I walked around. I looked at his books, his pictures, his kitchen. Everything was neat. But I saw no joy. Then I found a drawer. Inside it was a small box. I know it's wrong, but I opened it. There was a photo inside, old, faded. It was me and him. I was young, smiling. He was about 6. We were sitting outside the shop. I had my arm around him, my throat closed. He kept this? I touched the photo with my fingers. Then I put it back and closed the drawer. Later that evening, Lucas came home. He looked tired. He sat down and rubbed his face. I saw the photo, I said. He looked up. Which one? The one of us, in the drawer. He was quiet. I didn't forget, he said. I got busy. I know, I said, but I didn't really know. I didn't know how it was so easy to stay away from the one who raised you with love. Why didn't you call, Lucas? He didn't answer. I waited. Then he said, I was ashamed. Of what? Of leaving, of staying away, of not being the son you deserved. Tears filled my eyes. I never needed a perfect son, I said. I just needed to know I still mattered. He looked at me, and then he started to cry. He cried like a child, and I held him. I didn't say anything. Sometimes love doesn't need words. He buried his face in my shoulder. He said, I'm sorry, Mama. I missed you every day, but I didn't know how to come back. You don't have to come back, I said. I'm here now. That night, he brought out more photos. We sat on the floor. We laughed. We cried. He asked about my shop, about people in the village, about the time I started reading. You taught yourself? Yes, I said. He shook his head. You are amazing. I looked at him. No, I said. I'm your mother. He made a small bed for me in the guest room. Before I went to sleep, I looked at the city lights outside the window, so far from my small house, so far from the dirt roads and chickens. But somehow I felt home because my son was near. And for the first time in many years, I felt peace. But peace doesn't last forever. The next day, we went for a walk. We sat on a bench in a quiet park. He looked at me. Mama, I want to tell you something, but it's hard. My heart stopped for a moment. What is it, Lucas? He looked down. Then he said, I'm sick, Mama. I'm sick, Mama. The words stayed in the air, heavy, cold. I looked at him, my son, my boy. He was looking down at his hands. What do you mean? I asked. My voice was soft. He looked up, slowly. His eyes were full of pain. I have something in my blood, he said. The doctors found it last year. They say it's serious. My chest hurt. I felt like I couldn't breathe. What kind of sickness? He didn't say the name, but he said, it makes me very tired. Some days I can't go to work. Some nights I can't sleep. I don't tell people. I didn't want to worry you. I reached out and held his hand. It felt warm, strong, but his fingers were shaking. You are not alone, I said. I'm here now. He nodded, but I could see the fear in his face. I didn't want you to see me like this, he said. I'm your mother, I said. I've seen you in every way, sick, small, sad, scared. And still I see you with love. He tried to smile. We went back home. I cooked rice and eggs. He sat at the table and watched me. Where did you learn to cook? He asked. I laughed. In life, with many small mistakes. He smiled for real this time. That night, we sat together and talked. He told me about his job, his friends, his lonely nights. He said, sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing. I said, no, you are here. You are still you. Then he asked me something I never expected. He said, can you stay? Stay here? Yes, just for a while. Maybe a few weeks, maybe more. I didn't think. I just said, yes, because my son needed me, and that was all I needed to know. The days passed slowly. I cleaned a little, cooked, watered his plants, folded his clothes. He laughed and said, "You're turning my apartment into a home." I smiled, but inside I was worried. Some mornings he couldn't get up. Some nights he didn't eat. One day I went to the pharmacy. I showed the woman a paper with the name of his medicine. She looked at me with kind eyes and said, "He's lucky to have you." But I felt powerless. I wanted to take the sickness into my own body. I wanted to give him back his strength, his light, but I couldn't. So I did the only thing I knew. I loved him. One morning he woke up and said, "Let's go somewhere." Where? Somewhere green. We took a taxi to the edge of the city. He led me to a small hill. There was grass, trees, and a little view of the buildings below. We sat down on a bench. "I came here once," he said, "after I moved, when I missed you." I looked at him. "Then why didn't you call?" He was quiet. "I was scared," he said. "Scared that I hurt you, that you wouldn't forgive me." I took his hand. "I was hurt," I said, "but never angry." He looked at me with wet eyes. "I'm sorry, Mama." I wiped his cheek with my sleeve. "Shh, shh, it's okay now." We sat there for a long time. A little wind moved through the trees. A bird flew past. He said, "You know, I used to dream big. I wanted to travel, be rich, be someone important." "And now?" I asked. "Now I just want time. Time with people who matter. Time to be real." I nodded. "Sometimes," I said, "we run after the wrong things, and we forget what really shines." He looked at me. "What shines, Mama?" I pointed to his heart. "This." He held my hand again. That moment was quiet, full, like the world stopped and let us breathe. At home, I found one of his notebooks. It was full of drawings, small sketches, a tree, a cup, a street. One picture was of a woman. Her eyes were tired but kind. Her hair was tied back. She wore an apron. Below it, he had written, "My first hero, my mother." Tears fell from my eyes. I didn't wipe them. They were good tears, tears of love. One evening, he came to me and said, "Mama, I want to take you to a special place." We took a taxi again. He held my hand the whole way. The car stopped in front of a small, warm-looking restaurant. He said, "I saved money for this. I want you to have one perfect night." Inside, it was quiet and beautiful. He ordered soup and warm bread. We laughed. We shared stories. At the end, he stood up and raised a glass of water. He said, "To you, Mama, to your strength, to your love, to everything you gave me." I couldn't speak. I just reached across the table and touched his hand. On the way home, he was quiet. His eyes were sleepy. Back in the apartment, I helped him to bed. He looked weak, but peaceful. "I'm glad you came," he said. "I'm glad I did too." He looked at me and said something I will never forget. "Even if I don't get better, I feel like I found you again. That means more than anything." I kissed his forehead. "I'm here," I said, "and I'm not leaving." He closed his eyes and smiled, but that night something happened. Around 2 a.m., I heard a sound. I ran to his room. He was sweating, breathing fast. "Mama," he said, barely. I called the ambulance. My hands were shaking, "Please," I said, "please help my son." The medics came fast. They took him away, and I followed. But in the hospital, they said I had to wait. So I sat there alone, holding his jacket, praying. And then, the doctor walked toward me. The doctor walked toward me. His face was serious. My heart felt like it stopped. "Are you Grace?" he asked. "Yes," I said. My voice was quiet. "Your son is stable now," he said. "He had a reaction, but we gave him medicine. He needs to rest." I closed my eyes. My hands were cold, but I felt warmth in my chest. He was alive. "He's asking for you," the doctor said. I stood up right away. I walked into his hospital room. It was small, full of white light. Lucas looked tired, but he smiled when he saw me. "You came," he whispered. "Always," I said. I sat beside him. I took his hand. He looked at me with soft eyes. "Mama, if something happens to me—" "No," I said quickly. "Don't say that." He held my hand tighter. "Listen," he said. "If something happens, I want you to remember this. You gave me the best life. You gave me love. You gave me everything." Tears filled my eyes. "Don't speak like this," I said. "You're not going anywhere." He smiled. "I'm not afraid anymore," he said. "Not since you came." For the next few days, I stayed at the hospital with him. I helped the nurses. I read to him small words, easy books. He said he liked hearing my voice. Sometimes we just sat in silence, looking at the window. One day he said, "I used to think love had to be perfect, but it doesn't. Love is just showing up." I nodded. "Yes, love is staying, even when it's hard." He closed his eyes and whispered, "You always stayed." Lucas got a little stronger each day. We went back to his apartment after a week. He still needed rest, but his smile came back. One morning I was cooking breakfast when he came to the kitchen with a small box. "What's this?" I asked. He gave it to me. Inside was a necklace, simple, silver, a small heart in the middle. He said, "I bought this a long time ago. I wanted to give it to you, but I waited too long." I touched the heart. It felt warm in my hand. "It's beautiful," I said. "It's yours," he said. "Forever." I hugged him, and in that hug, all the years of silence disappeared. Weeks passed. I stayed longer than I planned. We took small walks. We laughed. We even sang old songs. One day we watched the sunset from the roof. He said, "This is the best time of my life." I looked at him. "You're not afraid anymore?" He shook his head. "Because now I remember who I am and where I come from." I smiled. "You come from a small village," I said. "And a strong woman," he added. We both laughed. On my last day, I packed my bag. It was hard, very hard. Lucas helped me carry it to the taxi. We stood there looking at each other. "I'll come visit you next time," he said. "I promise." I nodded. "And I'll cook for you," he added. "I'll hold you to that," I smiled. We hugged for a long time. Then he looked into my eyes and said, "Mama, thank you for not giving up on me." I touched his cheek. "I never will." In a taxi, I looked out the window. The city passed by, fast and full. I thought about the plane ride home, but mostly I thought about love, real love. Not perfect, not easy, but strong, brave, kind. When I got home, everything was quiet. My house was the same. The little chair, the old photos, the soft light coming through the window. But something had changed me. My heart was full again. I sat at the table. I placed the necklace in front of me. I thought about Lucas, about the pain, the silence, the fear, but also about the healing, the laughter, the forgiveness. If you're still listening to my story, maybe you're waiting for one final answer. You might ask, was it worth it? Was the long wait worth the pain? Yes, it was. Because love, real love, is patient. It doesn't rush, it doesn't leave, it stays. Even when it's quiet, even when it hurts, it stays. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I know this. I am proud of my life. I am proud of my son. And I am proud of the woman I became. So if you are far from someone you love, if you are afraid to call, if you are waiting for the right time, don't wait. Love is never late. Even after all these years, I knocked on a door, and it opened. And you, what would you do if you were me? Would you take that flight? Would you knock on that door? Let me know. I'd love to hear your story too.